There tend to be two primary camps when it comes to group rides. Those who love to go riding as a group, and those who would rather go to the dentist than go on a group ride. I happen to fall in the category of a person who does most of their riding solo, but do enjoy a group ride when the ride is set up properly and has a good ride leader, or I'm very comfortable with the people that I'm riding with, and it just kind of comes together naturally. For this first video in this two-part series, I will talk about the traits of a bad ride leader and or a poorly set up group ride. If you are a person who has been invited on group rides, here are some signs that the rides have included a bad ride leader and or are poorly planned, organized, or executed. Especially helpful for new riders, where very often bad things can happen, like wrecks. This first section will be signs that you've been invited on a ride with a bad ride leader that's been poorly planned, organized, or executed. These things aren't absolute, just common things I've noticed in my 30 plus years of riding motorcycles. Number 1, ride your own ride. This phrase is basically saying you are on your own, which means heck, why are you going on this ride with other people anyways? If you were doing your own ride, why not just pick a route from the thousands that are published on the internet and not have to deal with the meetup times and schedules? If you really do want to meet up with this group at the final destination, just tell people where the group is meeting. Don't require anybody to meet before that at any time or go on a specific path or things along those lines. If it takes one person 20, 30 minutes to get there and another person 45, let them leave on their own terms and get there at their own pace. Number 2, everyone just shows up and we go from there. This is a big indicator that the only plan is there is no plan. For a crew that rides together often and has similar skill set levels, this works out perfectly. Destination is agreed upon, and they know basically they will end up there about the same time because they tend to stick together having the same skill levels. For new riders to the group, or new riders to motorcycling, a little bit of planning goes a long way. Best to stick with a group that can address your questions and concerns prior to showing up for the ride. Number 3, there isn't a way to communicate after the ride starts. In the age of bike-to-bike radio communications, the need to know hand signals is diminished quite a lot, and many riders don't know them anymore. If the route changes along the way, or there's a rider in trouble, and no way to communicate it forward to those ahead of you, this creates a problem. There are 2 riders that should be connected for the duration of the ride leader and the caboose or shepherd, the last bike in the crew. If the group is so large they can't communicate, this is a sign that any trouble will result in 2 groups riding. If there isn't a designated caboose or sweeper, that's a major sign you've been invited on a poorly organized ride. Number 4, stories about riders being involved in wrecks or crashes on previous rides with this group. This should be a major red flag for any new members, but especially new riders. Bad ride leaders do not consider the elementary truth that a good ride is one that all riders in the group can do without crashes or wrecks, anxiety, or panic, and that the lowest skilled and slowest riders, sometimes the same person, sometimes not, set the pace for the entire group. Failing to follow this simple, basic, and universal good ride leader etiquette is a sure sign of a bad ride leader who disregards the safety and comfort of others in their group. So, you show up for a ride, and now you're committed. Signs that the ride you're on is led by a bad ride leader or is poorly planned. Start point is not at a place where people can refuel, use the restroom, get a drink, get something to eat, talk a little bit, get to know people that are going to be on the ride. Understand a lot of people will meet at someone's house, where at least 2 of these things can be accomplished, and the first stop of the ride will be a petrol station. And that works out too. But if you weren't told to arrive fully fueled, and the ride leader and or organizer doesn't have a fuel stop as the first destination, it might be time to Google the closest petrol station and decide if this ride is really one you want to go on. 2, leader and caboose sweeper are not designated individuals who can communicate. On many rides, I've been the caboose, or a sweeper, and communicate with the ride leader via our PackTalk Cardo communication systems. And I've gone on rides prior to comm systems where I would be the caboose sweeper, and it ended up being two groups. I'd stop for whoever needed assistance, and the rest of the group would continue on, unaware that we had stopped. If you find yourself getting ready to head out on a ride, and the sweeper caboose has not been identified, ask who you can buddy with. So someone is watching out for you, and you for them. Number 3. The lead bike takes off like a bat out of hell, and or line of sight is broken between riders in the group for more than a few seconds. If you can't see the next rider in front or behind you, it's a sign you are most definitely on your own, and not in a well-organized or well-led group ride. Number 4. Excessive speeds, including crossing the double yellow and or stunt riding. Unless you are on a closed track, people who engage in these activities on public roads have little regard for their own safety, and none for yours. I get it. They say, look how skilled I am. Look how awesome this is. Isn't this going to make a cool video? But what they are really saying is, I literally do not care if I live or die on this ride, and don't care at all whether you do. What to do if you're on a group ride with a bad ride leader, or one that was so poorly organized? My best advice here: give yourself permission to excuse yourself from the ride, go somewhere you are familiar and comfortable with, and go on your own ride on your own terms. All too often I have heard from new riders who wrecked or were scared after a close call or an incident by feeling committed to a group ride and felt pressured to try and keep up with people with much higher skill levels. Be more committed to your safety and enjoyment than to an event. Always ride within your skill level and do what you enjoy. Wear proper gear and live to ride again another day. If you're in a relationship, friendship, romantic, work relationship with a reckless group ride leader, get the message that not caring about your safety on that ride says a lot about how little they care about you as a person. I've excused myself from rides with reckless ride leaders. I don't have time to waste riding with people who don't understand their role as a ride leader, as they don't consider the safety and enjoyment of the people they are responsible for on the ride. For those type of group rides, I would rather go to the dentist. Hope this has been helpful. Keep the shiny side up and rubber side down.